Hello everyone and welcome to our next card review segment. We're going to be doing Warlock now. As with all the other segments before, we're going to be rating the cards on a 1 to 5 scale. Where 1 are your trash cards like Magma Rager, 2 are kind of your fringe or tech cards like Black Knight or Dragon Slayer, 3 are your playable or like good cards in a niche archetype maybe, like Plated Beetle or Deadly Shot, 4 are kind of your deck defining cards, or they're kind of staple cards in their class or respective class, or if they're neutral in multiple decks, cards like Wandering Monster or Gadgetzan Auctioneer. And 5 are your real like meta defining cards. These are cards that not only define the decks that they're played in, but the decks but all the other decks that are built across the other classes and as well. So these are cards like Court of Arms and Void Lord. Speaking of Voidlord, we have the class of Voidlord now, and Voidlord is still going to be around and be pretty good for Warlock, so let's see what other tools Blizzard have handed them this expansion. And we can start off with the card that seems like it'll slot well into decks that have Voidlord in, Lord Godfrey. Lord Godfrey is a 7 mana 4/4 legendary minion with Battle Cry. Deal 2 damage to all other minions. If any die, repeat this Battle Cry. And obviously this is... Lord Godfrey won't ever kill himself, which is pretty helpful. It's kind of like a buffed up Defile on a stick. It's a spell damage Defile on a stick, essentially.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, when I saw this card spot, I was like, Blizzard, what are you doing? Like, Warlock is one of the most popular classes right now. It loses very little in the rotation.
Yeah.
It has some of the best AoE, and you just gave it more AoE.
They're preparing Warlock for the rotation in 2019 when Defile rotates out, clearly. And, Warlock has pretty terrible class cards, like base cards, because the hero power is so good, so they have to give them good cards for them to remain relevant. So, yeah, I mean, Lord Godfrey seems pretty good.
I mean, it's like... For me, the first thing kind of struck me about Lord Godfrey is that even though it sounds, simple, oh, it's just, Defile +1. Like, you could play around Defile by simply staggering, your minions. Let's say you had 1 health, 3 health, and then you could, and then 5 health, you could probably be fine. Whereas, like, to realistically try and play around Lord Godfrey, you need to, let's say you don't have a 1 and 2 drop. Let's say you have a 1-2 drop. You then need to make sure you don't have a 3 health or 4 health minion. Yeah. So the only way you then have a gap, like, sort of, is by having a 5 and 6 health.
Yeah, you have to have a gap of 3.
Yeah, or 4.
Yeah, 3 or 4. 3 are great.
Yeah, which, I mean, is very difficult a lot of times, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's even harder to play around than Defile.
Yeah. The only real question is whether this card is better than Twisting Nether in a lot of the decks. Twisting Nether has the additional advantage of being able to take out, 1 or 2 big minions, whereas Lord Godfrey is very much more like Defile and better against smaller, wider boards. It kind of scales up better than Defile into the late game, but it needs to do that because it is, of course, 7 mana instead of 4. Instead of 2.
At least it leaves a guy behind, right? That's
it does leave a guy behind. That's the other benefit it has over Twisting Nether. So if the meta is one where there's lots of wider, maybe mid-range boards, Lord Godfrey is going to be good. Especially if they have like death rattles like Savannah High Main, where Lord Godfrey can actually clean up the death rattle as well. That's the other advantage Lord Godfrey has. Whereas otherwise, like if it's just, like Tyrantuses and stuff like that on the board that come from Spiteful Summoners, you're probably going to want a Twisting Nether instead. So, that's the only real thing is like, can Lord Godfrey fit in a deck that has lots of good cards in it already? Because there's kind of there's a lot of redundancy already in that kind of removal options.
Yeah, Warlock is sort of in that fortunate boat of having so many good options. It's like, oh my goodness, I don't know, do I run Twisty Nether? Do I run Hellfire? Do I still run Softened Soul? Do I run the Spellstone? Do I run Voodoo Doll? They've got so... I think, if I'm just thinking of it, you could almost build an entire deck of just good removal cards.
Yeah, good removal and Rin for win condition. So, I mean, I think Lord Godfrey, the way we kind of just described it, it would kind of be a 3 because it would fit in that playable in like in a lot of the decks, and it is sometimes a question of whether you run it. But I think based on its power and like how powerful we've seen Defilers, I kind of have to give it a 4. It's not going to be the only reason to play Control Warlock. There's plenty of other reasons to do that. And, obviously Warlock does have Zoo as well, so it's not really a staple in that sense. But Warlock is generally always a class that has 2 very contrasting archetypes that don't generally share many cards. Only really like Q-Block sharing with Doomguard. Because Doomguard turned into like that staple. But yeah, so I mean, I think it's difficult to give Lord Godfrey anything under a 4 really, because it is going to be a pretty powerful card.
I think it's going to be very powerful.
And it's almost a 5 in the way that it kind of does mean you kind of have to play around extra removal options. But because Warlock already has so many options, it's not really going to change how you build your deck. You're just going to hope to dodge them by some miracle.
What you're gonna have to dodge? What you're gonna have to hope you dodge all the warlocks?
Yeah, sure. I meant all the warlock removal, but
I thought you were just talking about dodging warlocks on Netta as a whole, right?
No. But yeah, moving on to the next card, we have Glinda Crowskin. Glinda Crowskin is a 6-mana 3/7 legendary minion, and reads: minions in your hand have echo. So at the moment, Warlock is, as we say, kind of blessed, and I don't really think Glinda might have the best options right now, but I think the effect is super powerful. All you need is a good 1 or 2 drop, or some way to keep Glinda to stick on the board. You can get really, really powerful effects. I think even just playing like Glinda and 2 Gnome Feratus is the closest we can get to any kind of mill deck right now. Because it's the closest we have to good old Cold Light Oracle that's rotating out. It's essentially like forcing your opponent to draw 2 cards, except you don't have to have them at full hand in order to mill them. So I think Glinda Crowskin is actually pretty powerful. Maybe not right now, but I think there's definitely good potential there.
Glinda's got a card like just the effect sounds like it has potential. The main restriction is obviously it costs 6 mana, so I think it's something that's for future prospects, so that's why for me I give it a 3. Okay. This could easily become a 4, I think, in future.
Yeah, one of the other combos with it is Happy Ghoul. If you can get that to 0 by healing yourself this turn, you can actually play a board full of Happy Ghouls. Because Happy Ghoul's effect kind of checks if you've been healed rather than reducing the card itself. Like Corridor Creeper, for instance, would only reduce the first one, and then the second would still cost 7, so it wouldn't work. But something like Happy Ghoul actually works quite well with Glinda Crowskin.
Useful to know.
Yeah, that is one way of going for immediate value right now. But Warlock has so many powerful things in their toolbox, I don't think that's particularly the thing they're going to go for right now.
Yeah, I don't foresee... There's not much reason to play Glinda over the cube or control Warlock shells at the moment, right?
Yeah. Next up, we have Ratcatcher. Ratcatcher is a 3-mana 2/2 epic minion with Rush and Battle Cry. Destroy a friendly minion and gain its attack and health. So it's a little bit reminiscent of Void Terror, except that it can actually attack that turn. So I think for something like Zoo, it's actually useful in that it can help make multiple trades. And for something like Q-Block, if there's too many Skulking Geists running around, well, Ratcatcher is a way of activating your cubes, a way of killing them, and you get quite decent stats, 6/8 Rush.
And is it really what you want to be doing?
I mean, it is definitely a way of killing things off in the turn you use it. In some ways, it's a little bit like Taldaram type effect. Because, well, except instead of getting extra versions, you get a way of killing them. So I actually think Ratcatcher might see some play. I think that Control Warlock and Q-Block is probably a little bit too...
gimmicky.
No, brimming with good cards to fit Ratcatcher in. It has kind of too many cards to make it work. I think its home might be in Zoo for now, but I definitely think Ratcatcher is actually a card that is a lot better than it looks at first.
Might be so. I still would only give it a 2. I still think it's a very sort of fringy, for me, I still see it as a fringe card more than a staple.
Yeah, I think it could be playable in certain decks, depending on the meta and whether you have enough things you kind of want to kill. So I think Ratcatcher kind of works pretty well, and I'm gonna give it a 3. Next up we have Deathweb Spider. Deathweb Spider is a 5 mana 4/6 beast with Battle Cry. If your hero took damage this turn, gain lifesteal. So this is one of the cards we're going to see that care about whether your hero was damaged or not this turn. We've got cards like Kobold Librarian, Vulgar Homunculus, Demonic Possession, one of the new cards, and Blood Witch, also one of the new cards that we'll see, that have ways to kind of activate these effects. I think Deathweb Spider, it's arguably a better Blood Queen Lanathel when it's actually activated. But I think the cost to activate it is too bad. I think Deathweb Spider just once again doesn't have a home in Warlock. I don't think you really want to play it in Zoo, and you're definitely not playing it in Control Warlock or Cube Lock. So I think Deathweb Spider kind of suffers from that, and this whole mid-rangey damage yourself deck, I don't think that's a deck. It's certainly not anywhere near as powerful as the other options for Warlock. So I kind of just think Deathweb Spider is a 1.
For me, I think it's a 2 because I think it's one of those things that I think it could find a home, and because I think like if you can activate it reliably, a 5 mana 4/6 lifesteal is pretty strong.
Sure. The big problem I have with that is it's not a 5 mana 4/6 lifesteal. You need to play one other card to activate it. Always,
I mean, that's
or
the thing.
you need something that has a passive effect that damages you, like Blood Witch, but I don't think Blood Witch is very good, so I'm kind of ruling that out. So for the majority of the time, you have to pay 1 extra mana, and then you get a 5 mana 4/6 lifesteal. And now when it's coming down on turn 6, I'm not sold at all.
Maybe. I mean, you might be right there. So,
So moving on, we have Blood Witch, the card we were just talking about activating us. So Blood Witch is a 4 mana 3/6 rare minion. At the start of your turn, deal 1 damage to your hero. Obviously, this is one of the ways of activating the Deathweb Spider on curve. I'm not really sold, though, that you would want an effect like this when it only works occasionally on curve. The other synergy card with having taken damage this turn, Duskbats, is at 3 mana, so that doesn't really work with Blood Witch. I think I would need to see more synergy other than just, the Spellstone is other existing synergy, or the Deathweb Spider in order to ever justify playing Blood Witch, which otherwise a 4 mana 3/6 isn't particularly great. It's not horrible stats for 4 mana, but it's arguably a 4 mana 3/6 with a downside that you're trying to somehow find to turn into an upside, right?
Yeah, and at the end of the day, 4 mana 3/6 is not even that, it's not bad stats, but it's not amazing stats either, right?
Yeah, I just don't think this mid-rangey kind of deck works, and I think this is not a card you really want to play in Zoo. Neither is the Deathweb Spider, so I think I'm just going to give this a 2. I think it's a little bit better than the Spider in that it's fine on its own on a curve, and it's probably better because it's an activator, and the Deathweb Spider needs the activator. But I'm not sure that Blood Witch is, or that deck is even worth it. Nor that I would necessarily even put Blood Witch in that deck. I'd probably rather just run the other librarians and stuff like that.
I mean, if it becomes more of a trend, I could see Blood Witch maybe becoming a decent card later on, maybe.
Yeah, that's
when
the
there's
thing.
more synergies, right?
Yeah, right. This expansion is going to be around for a very long time, being right at the start of the standard year rotation. Yeah. It's going to be around for basically a full 2 years. So there could definitely be a time where they can actually make this deck work. It could definitely move towards a 3 or a 4 in the future. But right now, I'd probably just have it at about a 2.
I have to agree with you there.
Next up, we have Curse of Weakness. Curse of Weakness is a 2 mana echo spell for Warlocks. It's rare, and it has give all enemy minions -2 attack until your next turn. I've actually been thinking about this effect a lot in Hearthstone, weirdly enough, before we saw this card revealed. The ability to kind of have effects that last until your next turn. So, this is kind of a way of neutering your opponent's minions for a turn. It works very well in combination with cards like Doomsayer or Corrupting Mist to set up a possible board clear.
And as well as, what's it, the Shadowwood Horror and a stick?
Void Ripper. Oh, you were talking about, what's it?
Mossy Horror.
Mossy Horror, yeah. Void Ripper also works quite well. Probably even easier to make combo because it's only 3 mana.
Oh right, yes.
So yeah, Void Ripper also works quite well. Like you need to probably get one less. You need to cast one more Curse of Weakness to make Void Ripper work versus Mossy Horror,
Yeah.
but that's probably okay, honestly. Um, and they would kind of stay at that health if after they swapped anyway, so that wouldn't be so bad, I think. Um, I think Curse of Weakness is a pretty decent card. I'm just not
'Cause, you
sure
know,
it's something Warlock really needs right now, right? We talked about how even with Lord Godfrey they have more than enough AoEs, and I'm not sure you need Curse of Weakness to go with your Doomsayers. So I don't think you need 2 card AoEs when you just have Defile, Hellfire, Lord Godfrey, Twisting Nether. I mean,
yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, because Warlock is struggling right now and needs all the help it can get.
yeah.
I feel like this card could easily have been in a different class.
I do really think the card's cool. I think it's one of my favorite of the Echo cards because I love this
Yeah.
until your next turn thing that it's got going on. And I think maybe once the file and stuff rotate out, it could be quite powerful. So I'm going to give it a 3. I really do like the card. I just don't think we'll see it in many decks right now.
Yeah, well, I have to get 3. I mean, even leaning, I think it could be a 4 in the future.
Yeah, definitely. Next up, we have Dark Possession. Dark Possession is a 1-mana rare spell. Deal 2 damage to a friendly character. Discover a demon. So you can use this to kill off your minions, something like Possessed Lackey. You can also use it to damage yourself to activate things like the Deathweb Spider or Duskbat, which is another card that's coming just now. Overall, though, I'm not sure discovering a demon is necessarily that good. There's a lot of bad demons right now. I mean, obviously the good ones are if you have something like Skull in hand, you can discover a Void Lord or a Doom God. But those are the only 2 good demons in a pool of very bad demons. And if you get bad demons, you're going to bring them back with Blood Reaver Gul'dan. So I don't see this fitting in Control, Warlock, or Cube-Lock. Anything with the Skull, where it's going to force the demon to come out, no matter what it is kind of bad because it's going to make Blood Reaver Gul'dan's pool less Doomguard-y, which you generally want it
Less
in.
Doomguard-y?
Yeah, less Doomguard-y and less Void Lord-y. And those are the 2 things you want from your pool from Blood Reaver Gul'dan.
Yeah, I just like the,
It's an adjective, Doomguard-y. Yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean, I don't really think Dark Possession is particularly great. Maybe it finds some niche use in the future. These kind of 1-mana discover a card kind of things sometimes turn out to have some kind of useful applications. And this is once again kind of a downside you're trying to turn into an upside, which is at least interesting design for Warlock and not just another card for control.
Power, right? I mean, you pay. Worst case, you could just deal to yourself instead of killing a minion, right?
And you're probably getting a better minion because that's one you actually put in your deck, a better card. But this is useful to kind of discover cards from outside your deck if fatigue
ever
matters.
Like a toolbox one, right? Like a tech, on-the-go tech option, right?
Yeah. So I'm gonna give Dark Possession a 2. I think at best it's kind of a fringe card.
Yeah, for me also 2. I have to agree there.
Next up we have Duskbats, the card we've mentioned a couple times now. Duskbat is a 3-mana 2/4 beast. It's a common and it is Battle Cry. If your hero took damage this turn, summon 2 1/1 bats. So 3 mana, you get 2/4 and 2 1/1 bats, but you have to have damaged yourself this turn, much like with the Deathweb Spider. The big problem I have with this is there's no way to actually ever play Duskbat on curve, because with the Spider, at least you can play Blood Witch before, and then that will activate it on curve, but Duskbat can never come down on curve, so best it's coming down is you're playing a 1-drop that hurts yourself, like a Flame Imp or a Cobalt Librarian, and you're playing Duskbat with that. And then you're getting a pretty decently wide board with decent stats, which is a useful turn for Zoo. So I think that's the big upside I think it has for me. But once I realized that you're only ever playing it off curve, I decided I wasn't as big a fan of Duskbat anymore.
Yeah, I was in the same boat. Like, I saw it, I was like, wow, this is great. And then the more I thought, I was like, wait. Because, I mean, let's face it, playing a 3-mana 2/4 with 2 bats would have been insane.
Yeah.
But, like, the problem is, it's not that easy to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost impossible, I think, to play it on curve and get the effect. I'm trying to work out, is there ever any way that you can get it
On curve, no. You, with the coin, you can play it on turn 3, but that's once again using
I
4
said, like,
mana.
are there currently any minions that like deal damage to yourself, like as part of their
No,
passive?
only in like wild. There's the 2 mana 4/3. I forgot its name. So we need those kind of minions once again to kind of make Duskbat work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, or you would need a weapon that warlocks can attack with, which wouldn't make any
Oh
sense
my.
anyway.
Yeah, it would be a bit anti-flavor wise.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense. So Duskbat, I think I'm gonna give it 2. I definitely think it could be really important if we can find if they print a 2-drop that hurts you when it takes damage, then Duskbat will become a 3 or a 4, because I think that will be enough reason to play the deck. Because then sometimes you're playing it off curve, but sometimes you're playing it on curve, and then it's exceptionally powerful in a zoo type deck. But for now, I think I'm gonna have to give it a 2. Maybe it sees some play as a fringe card for zoo.
Yeah, I have to agree there as well too. Not amazing right now.
Next we have Fiendish Circle. Fiendish Circle is Implosion without the damage. It's 4 mana to summon 4 1/1 imps. I think this is pretty terrible. I don't think that there's any particularly great synergies right now. Crystal Weaver's rotating out, I think, or is it still in? Crystal Weaver's still in.
Crystal Weaver's rotated out. Demon Fire is classic, but Blood Fury Potion is out. So it's a 1 mana 1/1 that can buff a friendly minion.
Yeah, so Fiendish Circle is a no from me. I mean, Darkshire Councilman also rotates out. So
sorry, I thought we were talking about Witchwood Imp. Sorry, like my brain.
Oh, yeah, no, not Witchwood Imp. Fiendish Circle. Fiendish
sorry,
Circle, 4
brain.
mana for 4 1/1s, yeah.
Oh, yes, sorry, my
Yes,
brain
yes.
just...
Yeah. Witchwood Imp is a different story. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
That's our last card. But Fiendish Circle, I think, is terrible, and much like the Imps, I'm going to give it 1.
Yeah. I mean, it's no... what's the card? Oh, it's the one that dealt damage. Implosion.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's like Implosion without the damage.
Yeah.
Or it's like an enemy Implosion without the damage. I don't know about you, but they always rolled 4.
Exactly. Yeah. And I always rolled 2. Whenever I needed a 3 or 4, I rolled 2.
Yeah. I mean, the big part about Implosion was once again the damage, not the imps, and was that fact that you actually had a way to kind of swing the board back in your favor. This does nothing for that. It just gets imps, and it's a little bit like the 0 mana spell, except not as flexible. The one that summoned the tentacles. I forgot its name.
Forbidden Ritual?
Yeah, Forbidden Ritual, yeah. So lastly, we have Witchwood Imp. Witchwood Imp is a 1 mana 1/1 demon with stealth. It's a common, and it has Death Rattle. Give a random friendly minion +2 health. I really like Witchwood Imp. I think it's a pretty important card for Zoo with the Malkazar's Imp rotating out. They're losing one of their good early demons for any kind of demon synergy. They're also losing Blood Fury Potion, so the demon synergy is not as strong anyway. But I think in Zoo in general, I would take a 1 mana 1/1 that buffed my minion's health when it died. And this having stealth as well makes it, additionally nice, because if you are playing cards like Demon Fire, it's more likely to get a buff.
Yeah, I think this is definitely quite potent, quite easily in Zoo, and if a Demon Zoo still thing, but I mean, but just a Zoo lock, as we'll see, just now with deck lists. But I think it's quite the stealth is very relevant, because also with Alpha and other forms of buffs, it can reliably probably trade.
Yeah, I think what's also pretty good is that if you're playing Vulgar Homunculus, you can, trade this off on turn 2 after you play your Homunculus, and then you get a 2/6, which is going to be good to set you up on the board for a while, and going to give you a lot of the kind of initiative.
Dirty rat.
Yeah, build your own dirty rat. I think Witchwood Imp is really good. I think it's going to be a staple for Zoo for as long as it's in Standard, really. The bigger question is just whether Zoo is relevant. The stealth also means you kind of always get the choice to attack with it, which means you can always ensure you have a minion on the board that it can buff. So that's also really important for the stealth and Death Rattle. Is a massive combination here, in my opinion. Without stealth, I think this card would be much worse.
Well, yeah, for sure. And then obviously without the death, it'll be garbage.
Yeah, without the Death Rattle, it would be pretty terrible. So for me, I'm going to give it a 4. I think it'll be a staple in Zoo decks going forward.
Yeah, for me, it's more of a 3. Like, I think it's good, but I don't think it's like 4 good.
Okay, so next up, we're going to look at some Warlock decks. We're going to start off with Zoo, seeing as we were just talking about Witchwood Imp. So we have your Zoo deck that you have here for us. This is kind of a Keleseth Zoo with Spiteful Summoner and Twisting Nether as well.
It's a bit of a spin.
Yeah, it's just a slightly different direction to take Zoo, I think, right?
Yeah, I decided to try something a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean, we've got Prince Keleseth into like Vicious Fledgling for the good memes. And
It's
then,
still good.
yeah, I mean, we've got like Fungomancer, which has been good recently in Zoo decks. So, I mean, the new cards here are pretty much just Witchwood Imp, right?
It's pretty much, yeah, it's
just
when I
Witchwood
realized
Imp.
it's basically Witchwood Imp.
Yeah, but
Basically,
Zoo didn't really
this-
get any other support, right? I think Witchwood Imp is good enough to push Zoo, though.
Basically, what this deck is basically how a zoo-like deck it might look after rotation, because like you lost Marcus Imp, so you lost that support with the Soulfire and the Doom Guard. You lost Bloodfree Potion. You lost. So basically, this was just sort of almost an exercise of what would a zoo deck look like.
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of it doesn't include a lot of the new cards though.
Yeah. I must say, personally, I like the non-Keleseth versions right now. But that's kind of very much a meta decision, right? As to whether Keleseth versions or non-Keleseth versions are better. Largely based on, do you want to play Volga Homunculus or Keleseth? Obviously,
Well,
whenever you play Keleseth on 2, it's super powerful. And Spiteful Summoner being a 6-mana 5/5 helps a bit as well. And obviously, Twisting Nether card you just never want to draw in this deck, really.
pretty much no. Yeah, you don't enjoy it.
But the 8 drops overall are not too bad. We're getting some decent ones. There's the 7/7 Elemental one and the 8/8 with Death Rattle that heals you for 8, which can be relevant in Zoo if you've been tapping a bit. So, Twisting Nether kind of still works decently here with Spiteful Summoner. And we've spoken about it a lot in the other class reviews. I think Spiteful Summoner is going to be pretty decent as a big power turn for these kind of decks and other kind of mid-rangey decks going forward. And then we have a Control Warlock deck here. It has more new cards in. Not something everyone's going to be happy to see, though. I mean, we all know Control Warlock and Cube Lock are going to be kind of powerful. I think the Cube Lock deck probably has a little less space for new cards. I'm not sure Lord Godfrey makes the cut in that deck, so we've gone with a Control Warlock deck here. The big things that the deck is losing in the rotation are Inzoth and the Mistress of Mixtures. So, without the Inzoth here, I've gone for Lord Godfrey, 2 Mountain Giants to have some extra threats instead of being able to, bring back the Void Lords a second time. Rin is kind of often your win condition in any of the slower matchups. We've also got the Cube for some extra value, and then Voodoo Doll for its synergy with Defile, as well as just an option to kill. And it also synergizes quite well with Dark Pact a fair amount of the time. And then Stonehill Defender to find you more Rins. It's kind of pretty standard right now. The big thing that's kind of missing is Doomsayer, I'd say. Probably just so that I could make more space for Lord Godfrey and Twisting Nether, but you could probably play, and the Voodoo Dolls and stuff. You could play you could play Doomsayer and stuff there instead.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, Warlock has so many options,
Yeah.
so many different directions. It's spoiled for choice right now, I think.
Yeah. So that's what we have for Warlock. It should be in a really good position going forward in the meta. I wouldn't be too surprised to see some nerfs to Control Warlock / Cube Lock a couple months after the set launches. We'll see, and that's probably going to change a lot of the evaluations based on the current meta at least. But if you have a different idea for maybe how you think Warlock could... some Warlock decks could be built. Maybe you think the self-damage deck will actually work out. Feel free to share your deck lists in the comments below. You can also tweet at us at PandemoniaZA and at dib_gaming. And please also go ahead, like and subscribe. and share the videos as much as you want. We're nearly done with the sets. Sorry, the decks. There's still or the classes. Sorry, it's just Warlock and the neutrals to come. So make sure you check out those as well. I'm sorry, Warrior and the neutrals to come.
Because this is Warlock.
Yes, this is indeed Warlock. But for now, cheerio.
Cheers.